Greetings, We Know Texas Vino listeners. We have an amazing episode for you today. This next episode is maybe a 2 or 3 part series, and we had the honor to meet with Don Pullman and Alphonse Dotson and his wonderful wife, Martha. These two men have been some of the early trailblazers in the Mason, Texas wine industry, and it is an honor to get to sit down and chat with them all. So sit back, grab a bottle of your favorite wine for Dotson wine, and enjoy this episode. Cheers.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the main event. Are you ready to pop your cork? In the left corner at 6'4", 242 pounds, with a record of 45-0, the undisputed.
Hey, Michael.
Hey, Will.
Hey, how many bottles of wine have you had?
Well, Will, it's not the wine. I'm just so excited about the podcast.
Yeah, I am too. This is not a boxing match. This is We Know Texas Vino.
Salute.
Welcome all you Texas wine lovers. This is your host, Will, at We Know Texas Vino. And we're coming to you from the wines of Dotson Cervantes. And we're talking to Alphonse and Don. Now, if y'all don't know who Alphonse is, it's Alphonse Dotson and Don Pullmum. They are two of the most talked about winemakers and influencers in Texas wine industry right now. And so, as y'all know, I put on my Facebook page, I had a super duper secret episode that no one only knows. Only like 3 people knows I'm here. So, yeah, I might take some pictures and throw out there as a teaser and stuff. So, I want to welcome y'all both to the show.
Thank you. Thank you kindly.
Yeah. And Alphonse, you and I met at Twigga. I got to meet you and your wonderful wife, Martha.
Right.
We had a blast drinking wine and conversating about life in general.
That we did, my friend.
Yeah, it was just such an amazing conversation, and I knew it from that point forward that I had to have you on this show.
Oh, well, I'm very humble and delighted, and then that lady I'm married to, look at those little fat cheeks. She's happy too.
As she blushes over there and she throws the hand up and said, "Oh, shucks, get out of here." Yeah. And Don, everybody has said that if I come down to the Hill Country, I have to talk to you. And like literally everybody has said that, not just 1 or 2 people. Okay, maybe it's just 1 or 2. No, I'm just kidding. But thank you for coming on the show also.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Anytime I have time to talk about Texas wine, I talk about Texas wine.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. And in fact, actually, you're the one who actually gave the idea to come talk to Alphonse at the same time.
Yeah.
And when I told the 3 people that I was going to do this, they said, well, make sure you have cleared your schedule for the whole day.
Hey, Alphonse, we have become influencers.
Influencers?
How do you feel about that?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is some of my regular teammates, and they tell you about what kind of influence.
I've read a couple of stories online. There's a couple of little posts about your NFL career. And I actually... I will touch it when I don't want to focus all that. But there is a couple of questions I have about that
sure.
That we'll talk about here in just a few minutes. So
all right, take your time.
Let me hit my social media stuff, and then we'll get into the meat and the potatoes here. Okay. So,
all righty,
folks, you can find us on Facebook at We Know Texas Vino. You can also find us on our website at weknowtexasvino.wine or .com, and you can find our show on any podcasting platform. When you find us, listen to us, give us a 5-star rating, give us some feedback, tell us what we're doing great. Tell us what wineries we need to go to. Even give us some good education topics or what you're wanting to learn about, because we love to do education here. And then on top of that, we love what we're doing here. Yeah. So you're listening to We Know Texas Vino, episode 76 here at the beautiful place called Wines of Dotson
Cervantes.
I've had problems with words all week long.
Oh, man, it's all good. You just need a little drink of wine. You're in several drinks, and your tongue will get free.
Oh, we've been drinking all week. What are you talking about? So, as we stated, we were talking to 2 of the biggest names of the influencers in the wine industry. I can't explain their love and their passion for grape growing and winemaking here. So which one wants to go first to talk about that? I mean,
you start.
Age before beauty?
Age before beauty. Alphonse and Martha were the first ones to start a vineyard in the Hickory Sands district, which is a lot of area in Mason and Voca, essentially. Alphonse planted his vineyards in 1997.
Okay.
And I planted my vineyard in 1998.
Okay.
So we have enjoyed the success and the tears of struggle for 27 years for Alphonse, 26 years for me.
Wow.
I was thinking maybe 20-something or 23, but my wife says I don't do numbers right. But, hell, I just, I think about where I want to head and just keep, like Satchel Paige would say, just keep running, don't look back.
Exactly. I mean, because if you look back, you're going to stumble.
That's right.
Yeah. And plus, I don't run very well also, too.
Hey, welcome to my world, young fella.
So, Alphonse,
Yes.
something I read about you, and I see this on multiple things, and not just in the wine community, but just in life in general. And this is probably one of the things that really fascinates me and draws me towards you a lot, is your determination and strength is your driving point of success. It drove you landed into the NFL, which we'll talk briefly about that.
Sure.
And then your drive into the wine industry as well is becoming one of a renowned Texas winemaker, because everybody knows you. If you do Texas wine, you know Alphonse.
Well, thank you kindly. I'm elated. I'm thinking the fact that one of my grandsons who says that you don't do any marketing at all, and I don't, and that the word has spread that what we produce is definitely of high quality. One of the things that keeps me going, the lady that I'm married to, and this rascal sitting next to me, okay? On that side of the fence. He came to me one day and says, I'll change one of the addresses. What in the hell are you doing? About 4 years ago. And I said, what do you mean, Donald? And he says, what the hell are you doing? Blank, blank, blank. I say, Donald, what do you mean? Your wine making. I say, my wine making? What about it? It's full of fraught and pearl. You didn't go to school for it. You don't have a damn lab. And et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And he went on and he says, and every damn thing that you have produced has been awarded a medal in international competition. And I looked at him and I said, I didn't think nobody was paying attention to little old black-ass winemaker.
Oh my gosh, that is great. I'm gonna make a T-shirt for you that says that.
Come on, and they said, hey, what the hell you doing? I said, man, and changing the adjectives. And I said, well, Donald, I said, we have and I have one goal. And the guideline is simple this. Don't worry about being like France. Don't give a damn about being like California.
Mm-hmm.
To hell with other Texans.
Mm-hmm.
Just create and develop something that represents yourself. And the little lady that I'm married to, very few would understand that she's Native American, born in Guadalajara, part Spanish, part Oriental, and one would think that she is into highly spicy foods and sweets. Well, she's into the opposite. In drinking wine, she likes the reds and the heavy tannins and the dried berries, etc., and all of that. And hell, I'm the damn sweet one.
That's all she needs then. That's good.
All she needs. I mean, and so when I'm creating something, I have to create something that we both will drink at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So it is getting that happy balance between us. It's a marriage.
Right.
Okay. And so far, we have been able to make this marriage last on both sides of the fence. There have been a few spicy moments.
Oh, yeah, I bet there was.
But that is the key. And then now that Donald has let me know that he's been paying attention, as the old folks would say. I got him looking over, and I say, well, shit, I guess I don't keep this going, and, and how do we continue to make it work? And we continue to make it work by not changing the damn thing.
Right. If it's working, why change it?
That's right, and we've been very fortunate, as we'll probably get into somewhere down the line, that the quality of soil has played a great deal in this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and giving us quality fruit. We have, as you might have come to know, we're within an AVA, within an AVA, within an AVA.
Correct.
And we're definitely the first part of that, the little short dissertation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, and hopefully when everything comes through this summer, the Hickory Sands District within the Llano Uplift within the Texas Hill Country. And we're just fortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll tell you about how we got here a little later.
Yeah, wait. Someone told you when you were looking for the vineyard land to look for sandy soils.
Right.
Who was that? Do you remember?
I do. I do. Okay. This goes back to my Oakland Raider family. A fellow named Cam McLeod, and we were on a exhibition tour to Spain that Al Davis had invited me on, and this fellow was, after we took off in New York, walking down the aisle, and I was sitting on the end, and they had a bottle of cognac, and they said, "You drinking?" And I said, "Hell yeah." And he sat down and popped it, and we started sipping, and came on into Barcelona, and and checked in, and everybody selected an area where they wanted to, sort of hang out. And this young man and his wife came 30 minutes later and sat down, and he followed me around for the next 4 or 5 days wherever I went. After a couple of days, he says, "You've been nice to me and my wife, and I don't know I could be overbearing." And I said, "Cam, it doesn't cost you a damn thing to be nice."
Right.
You say, "But I know I talk a lot." And I say, "Man, fine, you wear your feelings on your shoulder." He said, "Well, did you know my wife before this trip?" I said, "Hell no." He said, "Well, I know you didn't know me." He says, "You know my father-in-law?" I say, "Well, who's your father-in-law?" He said, E.J. McGraw. I say, "Sure, Mr. McGraw owns the other half of the Oakland Raiders." He said, "Well, you've been nice to us not knowing who we belong to." I say, and reiterated, "It don't cost you a damn thing to be nice." He says, "Well, you know what? Come see us." I say, "Man, I'll come see you. You're living in Oakland, Berkeley, Walnut Hill." He said, "No. We live in the Rutherford section of Napa Valley."
Oh.
I said, "Man, I don't normally ask a guy what he does for a living, but what the hell you doing in Rutherford?" He says, "My father-in-law, for a wedding present, gave us a home and 42 acres of vineyard right across the river from Camus."
Oh, wow.
I say, "Oh, man, I'll be there." And we stayed in touch and over the next several months, and told Martha we were going to go out to Napa Valley and see Cam and Michelle and pester them about learning how to grow grapes. So it started with my Oakland Raider family, Okay.
So I would have never, ever, ever put those two together, ever. I just thought you was like, I'm tired of playing football. I'm going to go over here and grow grapes. I never thought your interest actually came because you were on the Raiders teams and someone had a winery in a vineyard already.
Man, look here. Yes, I hear you. You make me think about a damn food writer out of Sacramento and San Francisco that after I'd been here a year, the phone rings and Martha says, "Somebody from San Francisco called." I say, who the hell is this?" So I picked up, and this fella said, I'm from San Francisco, Chronicle in Sacramento, such as B, and I was just called to find out if you are Alphonse Dotson. I said, yeah, I'm Alphonse Dotson. He said, well, I heard this rumor. I said, rumor? I said, I'm listening. He says, I heard a rumor that Alphonse Dotson was growing grapes in Texas. I said, yes. He said, now are you the Alphonse Dotson that played for the Oakland Raiders? I said, yes. I said, what is it? He says, well, to be honest, I thought this was something that a 49er would be doing and not a Raider.
Oh, my gosh, that is great.
So I gathered my composure. I condensed my highly descriptive adjectives. And I said, why in the, you fill in the blanks, wouldn't a damn Raider be doing this? I say, young fella, I have one question to ask you, since you're asking me one. I said, and the same question I'm asking you, I have asked Tom Landry. I said, my understanding that this country was created out of Native Americans, immigrants that were intellects, cutthroats, scoundrels, and thieves, and sons of slaves. You said yes. I say, well, ain't that the goddamn Raiders? So why wouldn't one of Raiders be doing it?
I mean, did they say like the 70s or the 80s Raiders were half prison inmates?
We might have been overly aggressive, and they might have thought some of us should have been to prison.
Now, I'm going to hit this topic real quick, and I'm going to definitely leave this one. I believe that the worst tackle ever happened in the NFL was from an Oakland Raiders.
I heard that. I was there. Okay.
Yeah, I just know that the gentleman was paralyzed.
Right.
And that's.
I hear you. Okay. And Jack Tatum.
Yes.
Okay. And the young man, I think it was either the Patriots or somebody on the East Coast team. With all due respect, and I'm not taking up for Tatum, and he has now passed on, but my complaint really is the individuals that taught the receivers how to catch and not how to fall.
Right.
Okay?
Yep.
And not what to do. I can sit here humbly and say to you, using myself as an example, when the NFL started bringing in old Raiders and other players to have physicals and do check your brain. The year that the Carolina Panthers went to the Super Bowl and they were doing one of these physicals exams, and I was lagging around and had gone through the last test, which was the brain scan. The text came out about 30 minutes later, and I was just hanging around. It says, hey, you don't have any calcium. I said, oh, calcium? I'm looking at it. You don't have any calcium. I said, look, what the hell are they talking about? Hey, man, you don't have any calcium on your brain. I said, oh, so y'all elated that I don't have calcium on my brain, because most people use their head to tackle, and I use my head knowing how to tackle correctly and not develop calcium on the brain. So no, I don't have any brain damage. Now, my wife might disagree, and some of my teammates, but no, I mean, so what I'm saying to you is that had the young man been taught correctly how to fall, this also wouldn't have happened.
Right. And it was an unfortunate accident that happened, you know.
True.
And man, you know, I never want anything to happen to anybody. But I mean, it's a pretty rough sport. I mean, there's a lot of damages happening there.
Yeah, well, it was rough in my day. Tonight is the damn patty cakes, the way I see it. Shit.
I'm just going to say, I see those big padded helmets now. You know,
they put their big padded helmets. You got 300 folks, 300-pound youngsters, and I find it interesting that they all go and jubilation of gyrations in reference to making a tackle during the game. I thought you were being paid to make the damn tackle. So, and you're that happy elated, jump up and down after you made maybe about 10 or 12 a game. You got 60 damn plays a game.
Right.
You're going to get elated behind making 1 and 2? Shit.
Right.
Hey, the uniforms are prettier now than they ever were.
The look on his face is just like, you need to get out of here with that one.
No. I really could tell that attitude. I could tell that attitude, but okay, I hear what you're saying. But before Al Davis passed away, I guess that might have been 8 or 10 years ago, the top NFL paraphernalia that was being sold.
Jockstraps?
And not small ones?
Okay. Was paraphernalia from the Raiders and the Cowboys.
Uh-huh.
Okay. They brought in better than 40% of the gross money, if not 60%.
Yeah.
And Al's was complaining because they had to split it up into 28 teams, and because they weren't, and the others sit back there. But I mean, look at our uniforms, just basics, you know.
So it was between the Raiders and the Cowboys, America's team.
Wow. How do we go from winemaking to Hey, Don, I think you might want to move to the other end of this table. He's got a cane that he can reach right there.
Yeah, America's team. Well, that's America's team on one side of the state. But America's true team, we had that descriptive adjective.
Yes.
Well, so let's change gears over here. Let's talk about Don's little past now.
Oh, well, I actually...
No, I know about your past.
Okay.
Riff.
Oh, riff.
So you actually did performing arts before you actually got into winemaking and cooking arts.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you see how I balance this table out here?
That's right. Well, I was an art major, so there you go.
Yeah,
Okay.
he was an art
Okay.
major. Yeah. So we clicked, you know. Alphonse and I clicked. I just showed up to listen to your stories, Alphonse.
True Texas tale.
All right. So back in high school, I was, I was a theater nerd and a choir nerd.
And that's funny. I would have never, just looking at you right now, I would have never thought that.
And I had teachers who were probably wanted to be professionals, but they ended up with high school kids. So they worked us over pretty well and gave us a lot of opportunities. Our high school choir went to international choir competitions. I got to sing in a choir for Pope Paul. That dates
Look at
me.
here.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, at the Vatican, as well as our acting group spent a lot of time traveling to New York and other areas, and I was very interested in theater. As a matter of fact, when I applied for college admissions, I applied to Yale, which had a tremendous theater group and department, and Harvard, which did not. But, Harvard's Harvard.
Right.
Yeah, he'll let you know he got his master's in marketing from Harvard.
Shouldn't you say Harvard?
Yes. No, Alphonse says Harvard.
Yeah, you got to draw the H out.
Yeah, that's right. And did community theater, and of course I was in musicals, and I played Riff in West Side Story, and the young woman that was my partner in that was just gorgeous, and she was a dancer, and I learned a few moves from her.
Yeah, I know you did.
Man, we're just taking this big, just so everybody knows, when you're coming out here to his winery, there's a lot of turns and curves out here. Now I see why.
This is an after hour wine.
That's right. I like that.
Oh man, this is after our podcast. Adults only. Oh man.
So yeah, I had a theater background. I intended to be a professional in the theater area, either director. I wanted to open up a regional theater in Corpus Christi. So got my degree from Harvard University and went to Trinity Square Repertory Company in Providence, Rhode Island.
Okay.
And I was an apprentice actor there. And being interested in the business of regional theater, I volunteered to work in the office. And one day, the managing director said, here, I need you to do these W-2s. And so I did the W-2s, and I was looking at them, and I was saying, we got some actors here are claiming 44 dependents. Are you sure they haven't made a mistake? And he said, oh, don't worry about it. They'll never make enough money to ever pay taxes. That was a big light bulb for me. I realized, oh, man,
wow,
I'm going to get into a profession and not work or work for free.
Right.
I might as well be a musician.
That's fair. Okay.
So from Trinity Square Repertory Company, I got into banking. Disillusioned.
Okay. Yes.
with my career choice. And I just got into banking and ended up with a banking career for 11 years in middle management and lending.
Lending, he became a collector too.
Then Diana, my wife, and I, she finished a degree and was recruited up to the East Coast, and so I became a trailing spouse and hooked up with a venture capital group in D.C. And worked for them for 6 years, I guess. And we were a little publicly traded VC group, and my specialty was managing underperforming investments. So I put my glass eyes in every morning and put my hat on and went to work. And if any of our clients heard that Don Pullman was calling or wanted to come visit, they knew they were in trouble. Because my goal was to fix the problem, and that meant truly find out what's going wrong with their business and fix it with them, or discover that maybe they're the problem with their business, and
sometimes that is the problem,
and move them out of their business.
Eliminate them.
Termination.
or decide the business model is just bad,
right?
And it's not, or something's happened and out of their control, and it just needs to be liquidated. So I spent 6 years being that kind of guy.
Interesting. So then what led you into winemaking then? Because I mean, some people are, usually they're in the somewhat spectrum of doing winemaking and stuff. You were like totally left field, up in the left-hand corner, just not even in the spectrum of winemaking.
Yeah.
In fact, at this point, you hadn't said anything about drinking wine or even tasting wine or even getting drunk from the smell of wine.
When I was a kid in high school, a friend of mine had a parish priest who was essentially an extended member of his family. And the parish priest had a very wealthy father and mother who had an extensive wine collection. And so I would go over to his house for dinner, and the parish priest would show up, and the parish priest would always bring a bottle of some really extraordinary wine.
Okay.
And we would get our 2 to 3 ounce pour for dinner. And so
The look on his face is 2 or 3 ounces. I need 2 or 3 bottles.
well, we were high school kids. Come on.
Okay, fair enough.
So I cut my teeth on some pretty fine wines.
Okay.
And
He wasn't in my neighborhood.
but we were growing up in Corpus Christi, so there was still Blue Nun out on the beach.
Boone's and Strawberry.
Boone's Farm, Strawberry Hill,
Thunderbird.
Thunderbird.
That doesn't count as fine wine. Okay, just so you know that.
Oh, and the big jugs of Gallo.
Oh, wow. We had to go there.
But I didn't drink a lot of that. I drank good wine young.
Right.
So when I got to college, my college roommates and I, we'd pop for an exceptional bottle of wine at the end of exams.
Okay.
So we'd go into the dining hall with our bottle of wine and put a white tablecloth on the table and set our bottle of wine. And we were, at the time, we were seriously into Bordeaux. So we were drinking Chateau Margaux and Lafite Rothschild and Latour and
Listen to him.
This is this hard.
I had to. It was that hard.
I mean, they don't serve water there. They serve Fiji water there.
So I started studying wine and was truly very interested. And when I left and went to Trinity Square Repertory Company, not so much wine there, ended up back in Houston, Texas, to continue a career in banking. And my wife was working for Continental Airlines at the time, and this was after the first bankruptcy of Continental Airlines, and Frank Lorenzo, the CEO, was trying to put together the largest airline in the U.S. or in the world, which he did do. That wasn't financially stable, but he had the biggest one he had the biggest one. It didn't perform.
Alphonse, keep that comment to yourself.
You heard, you saw me gleaming.
But and my wife was director of compensation, so she was putting together. I mean, Frank Lorenzo was going on a buying spree, and he was buying up all kinds of underperforming airlines, and she was integrating the compensation programs from all the airlines, and of course, crashing all the salary structures, so that they can have a cheap, low-cost airline. However, even though she was poorly compensated because they weren't making a lot of money, they had flight benefits. So if I flew with Diana, I flew under her benefit as a director. So I knew we were, flying standby. I knew I was going to get kicked off because I was flying with her. Right. But I could fly by myself. But I was the lowest of the low. Right. And I could easily get kicked off. And I remember being in London an extra 2 weeks because I couldn't catch a flight home.
2 weeks?
Yeah.
I know you didn't go to the airport. You didn't go to the airport every day. That's
He said the pubs.
So like another 3 days. I think I'll go to the airport and see what I can get on.
That's worse than me getting stuck.
Oh, man, that's funny.
Yeah.
So Dinah and I flew a lot to the Napa Valley, to California. We really didn't do a French tour, so I was educating myself by drinking.
That's the
good
best
wines.
way to do it,
The best way to do it. Good wines in California, and I thought to myself, well, I think I'm going to grow some grapes. So at our house in Houston, I planted a few Muscat of Alexandria, and not thinking about, well, this is Houston. There's going to be Pierce's disease everywhere. Those grapes are going to die soon. Right. But I made some wine and became very geeky about making wine. And wherever we were, I was planting 12 vines or so and making wine every year. So that's how I became a winemaker, is doing it. Also, one of my customers I was working for Texas Commerce Bank, and one of my customers was a guy named Camille Berman. Mm-hmm. And Camille Berman you probably know him or knew him. Camille Berman owned Maxime's restaurant in Houston.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he had put together the premier wine cellar of any restaurant in probably the state of Texas at the time. And he became my wine mentor. So I'd take a client over to his restaurant for lunch, and he would bring me, he actually would bring his dinner leftover wine for me to drink with my client.
Leftover wine.
Yes.
That wasn't a doggy bag.
Now he's acting like he was in the
hood. So when, he'd have his dinner, he'd drink about half a bottle, and the other half of the bottle, if I showed up, would come to the table. And
I have leftovers for you here. This is not the good stuff. This is just the leftovers. This is what I don't want.
Well, I mean, you're drinking leftover Margaux that's breathed for a couple of days.
Oh, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. That's fair.
Or he brought a Diaquim once, and I was there with some bank people, and they said, "Oh, this is very nice." I said, "It ought to be nice. That's $300 a glass."
A glass, not a bottle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so can I put that on credit?
I had this social education in wine drinking and wine appreciation, and I was actually growing grapes and making wine just for my own pleasure. But after we were in the D.C. area, and Diana finished a degree and was recruited by EDS, and so she came down, and I stayed up there for 6 months to wait for some stock options to cure. Then I came down and I said to her, "You're making enough money. I don't have to do this anymore."
He became a well-kept man.
I became a kept man.
It's called having a sugar mama.
Yes. And I thought, okay, well, I can go look for vineyard land.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I went and apprenticed for a year with Michael Zerbach, who is a well-known grape grower close to Weatherford. Mm-hmm. That's west of Fort Worth.
Yes.
Yeah, Weatherford.
Yep.
And I just to see if I could do it, and if I enjoyed doing it, because I can assure everybody that the romance of grape growing and winemaking
is only on TV.
and you know what, going through Classic Grayson, the first thing that Andy said to us, he goes, "I'm here to take the love language or the love making of grape growing out."
Yes.
Right.
Right. And well, with that being said, because I'm gonna hold you right where you're at right there, okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm gonna switch gears because I have a topic that I need to touch with him.
All right.
All right. So recently, Alphonse, you just recently got the TV Munson Award.
Yes.
Okay. It was honored for myself to announce it to you.
That you were. I remember that young fella. Yes,
but
a very humbling moment.
It definitely was. In fact, being in the presence of both you and Michael McClendon, both y'all got awards that night.
Right.
Amazing gentlemen. But one thing and this is where the love stuff is going into. I'm going to quote it like this, okay? Mm-hmm. For your love for you and your Martha and viticulture, this is right where it shows where love has no boundaries.
Correct.
And because you show your love for the viticulture,
right? You
show your love for your wife,
right?
And you show your love for the community,
correct? And
that right there to me speaks boundaries. They say they take the romance out of doing a vineyard. Mm-hmm. You, on the other hand, you threw it all into it between you and your wife,
right?
And you've made it into something that's just absolutely stunning.
Oh man, look, believe it or not, I'm breathless and humble. Okay, thank you kindly. You know, well, you're not aware. I decided to do my life different, and when I say different, y'all have been, with total respect to y'all, have been conditioned that you leave high school, go to college, junior college, do an apprenticeship where and you get a job, get married, have kids, and when you reach 50, you start thinking about retiring at 65, 67, and do nothing after it other than collect your pension, if you're fortunate enough to have one.
Mm-hmm.
I watched the elderly men in my life, after they retired, complain about doing nothing. So before I was 14, I decided I was going to do my life's path different.
Mm-hmm.
I would retire somewhere in my early 30s, go back to work in my 50s sometime.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunate enough to be able to do that. And during that time, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do when coming out of retirement. But after being in exile in Acapulco for 14 years or 15 years, 3 years prior to 15, something hit me and said, it's time to think about doing something else. And 3 good friends of mine started saying, it's time to leave Acapulco. One was John Ferguson, a murder detective specialist from Chicago, military intelligence, chess master.
Wow.
Taught me chess. The other one, Thomas Diego, owned seafood restaurants, deep sea fishing boats, local cantina, go down and philosophize.
Mm-hmm.
Drink the best mezcal. The senior of the group, Fernando Von Crack, born in Baton Rouge, came to live in Mexico when he was 16 with his parents when they worked for the American consulate in Mexico City. He would just turned 70, saying he no longer worked for the CIA and had retired. If you can say you can retire.
There's no such thing as retiring from the CIA.
They said it's time to go, but they said it in a nice way. And I said, no, I gave them some highly descriptive adjectives on how to leave me alone. And then they were pestering, and then all of a sudden one youngster got in a little mischief, and I said, it is time to go. What am I going to do? I'm going to go back to Texas and grow grapes. Growing grapes had been pestering me weekly for 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when the phone rings and I get invited to go to Barcelona. And I told you that part about meeting Cam on the trip and then coming back and talking to him and then going out to Napa and learning after they were learning that they had their own vineyard and all, and going out to that part and learning about red sandy loam soil, fragmented sandstone, red yellow clay, top 3 varietals, Cabernet, Chardonnay, certain blends, and not being afraid to get your hands dirty and learning that growing grapes is the most labor-intensive out of all agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew right then I had to take my work ethics from playing football and working for my uncle, who was a contractor and did the foundations for homes in Houston, and apply that to this.
Mm-hmm.
And give myself a goal. And think about after I'd found the right lady again, because for 10 years I said I wasn't going to ever get fill in the blanks married again. And then when I got exiled into Acapulco, I was self-exiled, and I ran into her, and wow, I looked to the heavens and said, God, why are you finasticating with me? Because I didn't come to find a wife, you know. But kidnapped her from a job that she couldn't be fired from. She was a troubleshooter for the owner of a fellow who had vacation resorts around the globe, and she troubleshooted for him and had more power than his attorneys.
Wow.
And kidnap her away from that, and to bring her to the States and work with me in developing this vineyard. And as she said, hell, you don't grow nothing here at the house. And, you know, I said, that's why I have cactus, you know. you know. But the love, yes, you have to love this for the very simple reason there are challenges in this more than any other crop. You have the freeze, you have insects, you got hail, all the above, water, this, that, and the other. So if you're able to bring any harvest to fruition at the end of the growing season, you are still in the game.
Right.
And we were fortunate in that I listened to an inner voice.
Mm-hmm.
And sharing this part with you, most people don't listen to the inner voice.
Usually mine gets me in my trouble.
You know, snatched my wife and daughter, hopped on a plane to come to Houston to start looking for land for growing grapes. The plane is landing. This inner voice says, take them to the Alamo. Say, that's the Alamo, ain't got a damn thing to do with grapes. Go to rent a car. Voice says, take them to the Alamo. Now, this is where I'm going with all of this. Get to my mom's, voice says, take them to the Alamo. Go in there and tell my mom what I want to do the next day, leave Houston, drive out Highway 90 all the way to Bandera looking for land to grow grapes. Voice says, take them to the Alamo. My mom says, I'll ride with you tomorrow, but where'd you get this idea from? I say, your father. She says, my father, Alphonse? She says, when? I say, 40 years ago. She said, well, what did Alphonse do? I say, 40 years ago, to have you think about growing grapes. I say, well, when he took me home with him for the very first time in northeast Houston on 3 to 4 acres of land, the house set back 30 yards from the street, 2 mules to the left. Instead of me going in the house, I walked between the house and the mules, got to the rear, rabbit pen, dog pen, chicken pen, gardening, and I walked through this maze of a garden. Started walking back toward the house, walked up on 3 55-gallon drums housing 3 350 Evinrude Mercury motors. Say, fishing boat motors. Looked at the rear of the house, and basically about from one end of the house to the other end of the house was 2 fishing boats parked up under a carport made out of an arbor of grapes.
Oh.
I looked at my grandfather and said, you can grow grapes in Houston, Texas, and he just looked at me and smiled. We don't have the best 2 weeks vacation that I'd ever had, but I know my grandfather in coat and tie, downtown Houston, last 15 to 17 years of his life, AFL-CIO union president for a company called Sheffield Steel.
Oh.
Completely different from what he took me to.
Right.
He passed away, and grapes came to mind at the funeral. I said, grapes been coming to mind once a week for 40 years. My mom says, I used to worry about you becoming a gambler, and now you're about to become the biggest damn gambler of them all. You know, but they're going back, she said, I'll ride with you. Every stop we made on Highway 90, Schulenburg, Gonzales, Seguin, all the way to Bandera, this voice says, take them to the Alamo. I said, Mom, we're going to take Martha and Alyosha to the Alamo, grab a place to eat. find a place to eat, then we'll come home. On the way in, the same voice was saying, go and park where the gondolas turn around in the shops and the malls. We do that in that area. Go in and grab a bite to eat. When you get ready to go to the Alamo, the shortest distance is to go through Bloom Street, that little alley. Leave out the mall, 30 yards down on the left-hand side, Bloom Street Winery, Texas Wines.
Yep.
I said, go in and introduce myself to Timothy Martin, the owner at that time, tell him what I was doing. He said, in a nice way, you're looking in the wrong direction. I said, I'm going to take my family around here to the Alamo. They know where to find me. And they know where to find me once they finish. Came back. Started telling Timothy about everything I'd learned in Napa. And they say, all of that is correct except for where you're looking. He said, there are 3 areas for growing grapes in Texas. From the Red River to Sherman, the High Plains, and up and coming the Hill Country. As he started explaining the need for more grapes in the Texas and the different varietals that was needed, the top 3 and water and all of the above in the Texas industry the next hour and a half or 2. When my family came back, I said, Timothy, I have heard and understand everything you said. I said, I've got one more question for you. Give me a list of people to see that you'd leave your daughter with. First person on the list was his father. He said, my father teaches viticulture up at Grayson County Junior College.
Oh.
Second on the list was Dr. McKeachin at A&M, or Dr. McKinney at UT. Michael Zarbach, back up on that end. The Allers, the Beckers, the Newsoms, McPhersons, Paul Bonarigo. Thanked him. And over the next year, visited everybody on that list. Now, what I'm saying to you and everyone out there, sometimes there is someone talking to you and you are ignoring it because it's not the norm. And you are being given an answer or some directions and you say, oh, it's nonsense. Had I ignored the fact that someone was talking to me and saying, take them to the Alamo, and being persistent with this, when something's pestering you, especially on the positive side, someone's talking to you.
Yeah.
You know?
My inner voice likes to talk, but sometimes it gets me in a lot of trouble.
No. Well, that's a yin and a yang, but you know the difference, young fella. Trust me.
Oh, I do now, but when I was about 20 years ago, I did not.
Oh, yeah. I hear you. Well, hey, I've been there.
Oh, man. Well,
I think there's a spiritual component to grape growing and winemaking, and I had a spiritual experience in finding the vineyard here in the Hickory Sands district.
Yeah.
I put together a spec sheet like a good venture capitalist should, and I spent a year working in Michael Zerbach's vineyard and traveling Texas from the Red River down to the coast, as far west as Schleicher County, where Christoval, the city of Christoval, right, as the locals pronounce it. And I just noticed there was a Carmelite hermitage there. This was back in 98.
Right.
And there was this priest who, Father Fabian, who of Italian descent, he was from New York, he founded this hermitage. And Carmelite monks pray and chant.
Okay.
And that's their purpose in life.
Okay.
Is to pray and chant and of course, do work.
Well, I pray and chant. Shit.
But you're doing a lot less work now.
Well, and by the way, how much wine have you consumed when you do that?
Yes, right.
Man, look here. I was really reflecting back to the Oakland Raider days and whiskey,
So I stopped there and the brothers were chanting a Gregorian chant in a room next to the chapel.
Uh-huh.
I sat down in the chapel, and Father Fabian came out and said, "Hi, I'm Father Fabian," and we talked a little bit, and I told him I was looking for vineyard land. And he said, "Well, I'll have the brothers pray for you." I said, "Well, cool, thanks." And 2 weeks later, I bought my property in Mason County.
And it's kind of funny you actually are talking about, because that was my next question for you, because people around here call you the father of Mason County.
That is.
And it's not just for your winemaking, but also your historian stuff that you do too.
Well, the historian stuff is related to the wine industry here. I have a very good college friend, my old college roommate, who said, "Don, the internet is so prominent now, you could just make stuff up." And I said, "Well, yeah, I don't want to do it." "No, Don, really, you could just create yourself as the founder of Mason, Texas, and that you started it in 1859. And 400 years from now, when someone finds that file somewhere,
they can build a statue.
They can build a statue for you."
Just so you know this also, Will Donahue is actually a French model too.
Oh, yeah, okay. All right, yeah.
And I'm only like 125, by the way.
So my interest in the history is really the history of the wine industry in this Mason County, Voca area.
Right.
In the Hickory Sands.
The Hickory Sands, which is, we're all calling it that now, because that's what our district is going to be, the Hickory Sands District AVA.
The quality within quality and the highest of quality.
Right.
Yeah, we're hoping for it. We're hoping for it.
The craziest thing I've noticed all around the hill country area is granite. And even coming out here, there was a lot of granite. And I was showing Megan here, and it's like, look at this. What do you see out here?
Right.
And she looks around, and I said, "You see granite.
Yes.
You can't grow anything on granite." But then all of a sudden, if you watch, you'll see it all change.
Right.
And it becomes just soil. And it's just fascinating when you watch and you just look at the terrain. You can see the change in everything that's going on around us.
Oh, yeah.
And you just got to find the right location or the right place, and you'll get the best soil.
Yeah.
Then we got to discover the wines and the terroir of wines that are developed from the terroir of the land. Mm-hmm. This area has granite that has pushed up. Mm-hmm. Above the granite, we have fractured sandstone. Mm-hmm. And then in pockets throughout the Hickory Sands District are pockets of quartzite sand. Mm-hmm. And granite obviously will decompose very, very slowly. So what our soils are mostly made of is quartzite sand. And it's a particular kind of sand. It's very spherical. And that's the kind of sand that the oil fracking industry wants to help with their fracking process. And Alphonse decided, well, okay, we need sand, so I'm just going to put my vineyard between 3 sand mines, and I'm sure I will have found the correct amount of sand.
Well, I hear him on that side of the fence.
I like how you left your speeches for just a second.
I'm curtailing those adjectives, man. But hey, as I was saying, listening, and I hear Donald, and Donald went about it a methodical way. And I went about it listening to an inner ear. Mm-hmm. What was interesting after leaving the Alamo and doing research and talking to everybody that was recommended to speak with over the next year, it came time to make a decision as to where.
Right.
So I said, where am I not going to go? Let me eliminate that first.
Right.
I'm not going to go to the high plains. I'm not going to go to the Red River. Hill country. Okay. Now, do I start on the southeast part of the hill country and go to the furthest part? No, Alphonse, why don't you start from the furthest part and come back?
Mm-hmm.
Pulled out a Texas map, looked at it and said, oh, edge of the hill country, the very edge, northwest corner, Brady, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
My mom had talked about Brady, Texas growing up. She had two uncles that had been born in Brady. The McCullough County and the people in here in McCullough County and Brady in the early 50s named a city park after one of her uncles, Willie Washington Park. Then Highway 71 started out of Brady going to the Gulf. Well, I said to myself, if they can name a park after a black guy in the early 50s, they can't be too bad. And then, and plus, and the highway, and 71 was my number when I played in the NFL with the Raiders. Let's start in McCullough County. So I sent off for the soil survey book of McCullough County.
Mm-hmm.
Got it back to Acapulco and started marking the soil compositions that I like, A, B, C. Had my wife looking at it, and she said, yeah, I hear you. And then subconsciously they were saying, her and family, you like A, B, C, maybe D, F, G. The soil is there, and you're here, and you don't know what's going to be for sale.
Right.
I had torn a real estate agent's telephone number and name out of a Houston newspaper. That's when I was looking in the real estate section in the Hill Country. Say, take this one. Name was James Long. Didn't know where he was.
Mm-hmm.
Called him. He's in Brady, Texas. Told him I was looking for 60, 80, 100 acres, and this is the soil composition that I wanted, and the maximum that I would pay, and I knew what the land was going for in the area, and this is what I was willing to pay up.
Mm-hmm.
He says, okay. 2 weeks go by, give or take. He calls back and said, I found you 3 pieces of property. I said, can you send me a topography of the area through the fax machine? He says, yes.
What is this fax machine you talk about?
Yeah. You youngsters, you know. You youngsters. Yeah, back in the day, you know. And I said, yeah. I say, well, okay. Martha'd come home. She'd gone upstairs in the kitchen, and our fax machine is in the bedroom. I'm down there, and I'm hearing the paper come out, and after everything spits out, and I look at it and start smiling, take it upstairs and put it on the kitchen counter. Say, look what he found. A, B, C.
Really?
A, B, C. Yes, that he did.
Wow.
Yeah, sure enough. So my wife looks at me and says, hey, welcome. I guess we're moving. You know?
Oh, they could sit on top of us.
Oh, no, they're fine. They got something at the bar. Come on in. Make yourself at home. Yes, indeed. The lady behind you, where's your drive? You got your ID?
Yeah, we want to see some ID, ma'am.
You got your ID? All right, you know. That's what. Oh, hell, darling, it's the smile on your face. That's why I'm asking, you know. They got you younger than the
warning
others.
to all you gentlemen out there, don't bring your wives in here.
Oh, hell no. Hey, I like looking at the roses, man. I like looking at the roses. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. For real.
Oh,
you know.
Alphonse, every rose has its thorn.
Oh, well, yeah, I understand. And
I've been poked many times. Okay, wait a minute, that didn't sound good. I'm going to have to edit that part out.
No, it's all good. You know, and, hey, you know, the Raiders say, hey, you know, let's see what you got at there at home. Let's see if you got something worthy, you know.
Oh, man. So you found A, B, and C.
Yes, I did.
That's pretty awesome. So
Yeah.
what did you end up going with? Did you?
A.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Nice.
Yes,
So were you pretty excited about that?
I was. Still am. You know, it was very interesting in purchasing this land. Come to find out that the gentleman that owned it at the time, Spiller Boswell, hadn't been wanting to sell, but when I met him eye to eye before going to the realtor that had found it, I decided, let me go introduce myself to the owner, my wife, and then my mom and my daughter. Okay? And he says, Alphonse, I don't need the money, but I've made some bad moves since my son died in an accident, and I'm not thinking clearly at times on certain things, but I'll sell it to you. He said, you don't have to worry about me selling it to anybody else. He said, I'll sit on it until you want it. And I said, well, okay. I said, I'll have your money realistically within a year and a half, all of it, as opposed to going and having a note.
Right.
Yeah. He said,
Nice.
okay.
You know, and that's an unfortunate, you know, back in the 70s.
In the day.
Yeah, back in the day, you know, we can make deals with a handshake and face contact.
Right.
Nowadays, you got to get lawyers involved. You got contracts involved. You've got to get Tom, Dick, and Harry involved, you know, and you've got to get all these people involved. You know, it's unfortunate that you have to get so many people involved. And that's respectable when you show up and you talk to somebody, you see them face to face, and you make a deal with them.
Shake a hand and say, don't worry.
And that's your bond right there.
That's it.
And that's respectable.
You know, and as you drifted to nowadays, I mean, easily 40 to 60%, you have to worry about individuals keeping their word.
Yep, most definitely.
Yeah, so that's why I'm in the winemaking business. And grape
Then you know
growing.
it's the wine talking, not the person.
What did you think about that first part of this series? Alphonse is such a man of character. Next week, we'll get to hear from Don and how he ended up in the wine industry and in Mason, Texas. Till then, cheers.